So some tips and tricks on the electrics of your buzzer. What I did is I bought a new plug wire cable. Just because, I don't know, the old one, the wires I could see from in the end were all corroded and everything, probably not helping with, sending the spark. So what you do is you can pop this plug cap off and you can see there's a flat head in there. That is basically a screw that punches through this wire. So you'd loosen that up and then you could slide this cap off and then you'd shove a new wire end. You can just search classic spark plug wire and you'll find it. Then you'd shove this all the way in. Make sure you look down this hole with that screw all the way out. So take the screw out, set it on the table. Shove the plug wire in all the way in and then pierce the screw, tighten it as tight as you can get it to pierce through this wire. And then obviously you're going to want to make sure this is super tight, like you can't pull this out of there, which is how you want it. I'm actually going to add some cardboard around this tube because you can see this is kind of loose, even though this clamp's fully tight. So that's not an optimal situation. So yeah, I'm using an impact driver to remove the nut on here because it makes life way easier. Now if you didn't want to have to take this apart, you can file your contacts. I should have turned the flash on, but I can pull a light around here. Deep inside there, it'll be hard to see. Yeah, you can see the contact points, I think, maybe. Nah, you can't. They're kind of... Anyway. Yeah, you can see it there, right at the top, that little tiny pad. It looks like a little circle. I can't use my hand to point, but anyway. The contacts are in there, so you can file them and clean them up. Definitely just watch a YouTube video off any other bike to clean them. Then you can put pieces... There's the contact points. You can see them now. So you could use a piece of paper in there to... After you file, put pieces of paper in between them and pull the paper out. And then it'll clean off the surfaces, right, to get a better spark. So you can see, here's the electrical connection I mentioned. One of my wires is blue. Probably shouldn't be blue. It should be green, right? So somebody swapped that wire out, probably, more than likely. There's my double nutted bolt, which is a good idea. Anyway, now the easiest, this bike has 120 PSI, just to let you know the base point for what this is. This was a new old stock head. It was like $225 with a base size piston. The ring gap on the top ring was like 10 thou and the bottom ring was like 14 thou. It's supposed to be like 6 thou-ish, I suppose, from what I used a calculator online, right? There wasn't any information, so I didn't file any ring gaps or anything, but I got 125 PSI, 120 PSI. I use red high temp RTV, which is good for like 600 degrees, because this head actually gets to about 400 degrees on my bike at least. But that's why I'm checking out the timing, make sure it's not overheating, and all these points, I have 2 paper gaskets, 1 on each side of this black rubber gasket like you're supposed to have. Make sure everything's all tight. New gasket up in the top here so it's not sucking in more air and running lean, because it running lean will cause it to run extremely hot. I'm going to add copper gasket, copper sealant. You'll see that later on in another, maybe this video too, but to seal that gap, because right now I can see that it's been blasting out particles from this exhaust point. Even though I tighten the heck out of these nuts and everything, it's still, gap. It's not flat surfaces. So the copper high temp, you'll see it. But we'll go ahead and zip this off now. It's going to be loud in the video, but that's what's nice about the impact driver, right? There you go. And I tighten it with that too because it makes life easy, right? So then now you got your little nut off. You want to make sure that this is definitely torqued or tight enough, because if this isn't tight enough, then it can shear the key on the flywheel, or the bike just won't even actually start because it's allowing the timing to be out enough. Trust me, I've had that happen, and it was not fun. So learn from my mistakes. This flywheel puller, and if you can't buy that, I would buy it on eBay right now because it's about $10, and it makes life way easier to pull this puller off. So obviously I'm using an adjustable here, which isn't the best situation. And actually, normally I just use the impact driver on that as well, but I didn't bring that socket, so we're gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way. But obviously you should use wrenches on this, but it's really not that tight to pull it off that taper. So I'll just use the good old adjustable. I should have actually checked my timing before even pulling this off, but I'm going to pull it off and check things out in here and maybe do another explanation with this off for the video purposes. Okay, just make sure you try to pull, straight back, because it's a super tight fit on there and it likes to bind up. Make sure you wipe this out so there isn't a lot of rust or anything. And yeah, I'll try to get a better light over here. I apologize for shaking the cameras around, but what can you get? So you could just install new points if you can get them. They're on eBay right now, which I've bought new ones, and I should just replace these. But right there is your actual points, Try to get a better photo of them. I apologize. You can see there's your little points. I think you can just push this little piece, right? This is what runs, this little phenolic piece is what runs on the lobe on your actual magneto flywheel. So this is a lobe on here, right? There's a high spot. It's out of round. And when it goes around, obviously it's opening up and closing these points. So that's what I was saying. You could just get this puller and pull the flywheel off, and then you can clean up your points with it off. You can probably see mine are pretty clean, maybe not. I probably got some arcage material there now or something. So yeah, you want to clean those points, just look up another YouTube video on that, and then yeah, I'm going to start looking at the manual now about actually checking the timing and the points gap, which I think is supposed to be 14 thou, but we'll check that in another video. I did replace this condenser, I think it's what it's called, and I replaced that wire too, because my wire was completely rotted off, so took a while to heat all this up with the soldering iron, because there's so much solder there, So I did replace that just because it was clearly going to fail because the wire was so rotted out. But that's pretty much the gist of it. So here is some good verbiage on adjusting the points, Remove the flywheel cover by turning counterclockwise. Rotate flywheel till O mark aligns with O mark on crankcase. Hopefully you have that mark. We're going to investigate that online and see if we do. Then, read the rest of that instructions. You're going to want a 16 thou point gap. I actually had to cut a 16 thou shim. You can see 0.16. I had to cut it like this because when you have the magneto actually on, you're not going to be able to fit in the regular spacer. At least I found. Anyway, so you can see the rest of the instructions there. After ignition points are properly adjusted, connect OHMS clip. See, yeah, we might not have that. Yeah, okay, we'll probably be able to check that. So yeah, that's the gist of it. As we refer to this manual before, the O loaded on the flywheel, the O on the crankcase. Well, mine doesn't have an O on the crankcase, and I apologize, the lighting's bad, but you can see there's that red line, like somebody actually painted in the red line there. There's also some other lines over there. But you could also watch the points gap we discussed earlier, see where it opens as well. But there's other videos explaining that better as well. But basically you can see that circle on the crankcase, the O, is lined up with that line. So we'll give that point a try. And then obviously we use our custom points checker. Try not to get it on the burrs where you cut, obviously. You see you stab it in between these points gaps. That's almost looking like this one's a little too off. So you might need some adjustments, right? Maybe. It's obviously hard for me to look through and do this. Okay, I need my thinner one for sure. It's hard for me to watch the camera and do this simultaneously. But yeah, that is a little tight in there. Firm. Sorry, I wasn't even filming it. And I should have turned my flash on again, but it does need probably some adjustment to adjust the points. So then deep down inside there, you're going to see a little flathead, and you loosen that. And you can try just setting the points tool in there and then tightening the screw and then pulling it out and seeing if it's tighter. Or you might have to have you might have to pry it a little bit to get it loose enough. Obviously, it's fun adjusting it. But, it's good to have it appropriate. So yeah, that's the gist of it. I'm probably at like 14th thou or less right now, a little too tight. So you can see the points in there, and if I can do it, we'll film in the camera. See, we got it in there. I'm able to just slide it in with from the side here. I got it messed up there. It's obviously looking through the looking glass. That's my 16th thou shim in between the points. Now these are the points where you get a fingernail file and file them, right? Or just replace them all. But that's, I'm using that circle and that line, and that's the gist of it. I'll pull this magneto off again because it's very easy to do, right? Obviously you gotta unscrew the center point thing, but it's very easy to pull this magneto if you have this tool, right? Just make sure you screw it in all the way so you don't strip anything, right? So you get her like that. Make sure she's screwed in all the way. Just tighten up the middle one again. Then the impact gun. Now it's obviously very easy. So yes, up in here, you can see there's that little screw. That's the screw you would loosen, and then there's a little tiny slot here. You put a screwdriver in to torque it in a way, twisting it, right, to open up the points more to get your 16th thou shim in when it's lined up with that hole. I was rotating this plate to try to get some of that adjustment too, but you can obviously just use this screw thing, but that's more of a pain. But that's the traditional way you do it, is loosen that screw with the magneto on, and then you turn this one, and yeah, that's the gist of it. We'll see how well this runs. If it runs good, I'll obviously post the video. If it doesn't, I won't, but that's the gist of it. Next thing I'm going to do is get the high temp sealant stuff for there, and yeah, we'll be back.